Greetings! Today I'm going to be answering your questions regarding my Elite Zero Level 1 account. No, I don't want to ask any questions to an Elite Zero Level 1 Mad Doctor. Understandable.
Why?
Originally, I made this account to record the very beginning of Arknights. When you create a new account, there's a story scene that you can't view again, and I wanted to record that for my Story Clips channel. And after I was done with that, I wasn't planning on doing anything with that as soon as I was done with it. But after I had watched plenty of Dambo and Iron Cobra's Elite Zero maximum level clears, I decided to try out Elite Zero Level 1 because I was curious to see how far I would be able to get. What made you want to play Elite Zero Level 1 specifically as opposed to E0 Max or Elite 1? When I first started this, I didn't take it that seriously. I didn't think I would make it very far, especially with my added restrictions of skill level 1 and no potentials. But when I got to episode 2 and started clearing some of those later stages, I thought to myself, I'm actually getting somewhere. And so I just decided to continue going with it and see how far I could get. I mean, how far could I possibly get? Can anyone help me decipher this one? Bujiro? I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to ask. I am willing to use Elite Zero maximum level supports on limited time events, if that is what you're asking. Are you one of those people? Well, considering that not only did I decide to do Elite Zero Level 1, but also add additional restrictions like Skill Level 1 and no potentials, you might be onto something. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you become one of those people? Ask me again when I'm in Chapter 7 or 8. What do you use resources for on that account? And how can you save up for the newer operators? Ah, good old 1-7. We all can't get enough of that stage, can we? So, you use the Auroch cubes from 1-7, and in the base, as long as you have a level 3 factory and trading posts, you can trade those for a rundum. But on a regular account, I really don't recommend it. But since for Elite Zero Level 1 I have nothing else that is useful for me to farm for, that is what I use my resources on. Have you ever raged while doing a clear? I have a very simple question for you. Have you ever stalled this piece of garbage for 20 minutes? He has fast attack animations, his skill lasts an additional second after he starts moving, and he attacks Kafka twice every time you use her. In addition to all of that, you have enemies that make it harder to stall him, as well as the exploding Seaborn eggs. So yes, I have. Do you simply suffer from the experience and gain satisfaction at the same time?
Indeed.
Has this account made you want to M3 a skill 1? On my normal account? Yes. Casimiro. Her skill 1 has a 350% damage multiplier and has 2 SP cost, and I find that hilarious. What is harder, reading EN grammar mistakes or beating stages with E0 only? E0 only, easily. Because for my story clip channel, I have to read each event, which is typically 3 to 4 hours long, while taking notes. And then I have to think about how I'm going to edit each clip with what dialogue to keep and what not. On top of that, I have a lot of trouble thinking of thumbnail ideas for those said story clips. But for Elite Zero Level 1, all I need to do is clear the stage. And I find doing thumbnails for each of these clears to be incredibly easy in comparison. So, yes, I find beating stages with E0 only easier, ironically. While I still really enjoy doing these Arknight story clips that I've been doing, they are undeniably a lot of work at times. How long does it take you to do a stage? So some of the stages are deceptively not nearly as hard as they look. So for most of these clears, it really doesn't take too long. But for some of them, like DVS-1 and some of the, like the CC10 clear that I did, took a really long time because of how precise stuff needed to be. So if there's a lot of micromanaging, it takes quite a lot longer. So it might take multiple days of multiple hours for each day for me to clear. But for the easier regular stages, it typically just takes me like 5 tries or less to do. How do you get used to playing with hard niches? So for Elite Zero Level 1, a lot of the things that I've learned through playing on my main account, I was able to apply here. But one major thing that I had to really get used to was that, especially with Level 1 skills, DP is always an issue, pretty much. So I really had to learn how to deal with those opening rushes. And also there are a lot of other things, such as the shorter range that you get with Elite Zero operators, and also small things like certain operator branches having less block. For an example, medic defenders. So, while there is a lot of little things, it wasn't as big of a change compared to some of the other niches. What unit were you surprised with that is good at Elite Zero that most people don't like or overlook? Doberman. So as an instructor, she gets that additional damage bonus, and she also gets a very high damage multiplier on her skill 1, so she does a surprisingly high amount of physical damage. And also, Flamebringer is surprisingly not bad as well. I can't describe how much I love and hate your content. How long do you play Arknights daily? That really depends on whether or not a new event drops or not. But as like a general idea, I would say probably around 2 hours of AFK, because of how long 1-7 takes. What are some of the biggest differences that you do differently every day compared to a normal count? 1-7 farming takes so much longer to do compared to normal farming. It pretty much extends the amount of time that you need to farm by probably 3 times. And out of all the things Elite Zero Level 1 has to deal with, I would say, unironically, 1-7 farming is the worst thing to have to deal with. How many tries does it take for you to determine whether or not you can clear stage with Elite Zero Level 1? I would say around 3 to 5 tries, and depending on how much progress I can make within those tries, leads me to think whether or not a stage is clearable or not. Are you planning to use any money to get certain operators or stay free to play? I am going to try to stay as free to play as I can, The only time that I would consider spending money to get certain operators is for Texas Alter and Yata Alter, and that is because they are stupidly overpowered. So potentially for operators like that, I might be willing to spend money, but until I get to the point where I would have to do that, I'm not going to spend any money. In a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you not like it yourself? Depends on the day and how much I procrastinate. Favorite operator, that would be Dusk. Which faction is the best? The Blue Woman faction, obviously. But in all seriousness, I like quite a few operators from the Casimiras faction, so Flametail and Fartooth especially, but I also really like the Sui siblings because most of them give pretty unique gameplay, so like Nian giving all allies within an area a defense buff, and Dusk with their summons. What has Elite Zero Level 1 taught you about strategy that you wouldn't have learned from playing on your main account? For my main account, there are so many instances that for event mechanics or main chapter mechanics, I can either easily deal with or sometimes outright ignore and do fine until probably the boss stage or the EX stages. But for Elite Zero Level 1, you have to know what you're doing pretty much right from the start. You can't simply power through any stage. You don't have the DPS, you don't have the survivability, so whether you like it or not, you have to learn how each enemy's stats are and what the stage gimmick is and work around that. And I find that to be really satisfying. What stages do you think would truly be impossible even if you had every operator? Ideal Cities IC9 and stages similar to it. Pretty much stages that have unavoidable stage-wide damage are incredibly hard to deal with because of the survivability of my ranged operators being so low. Or if there's an instance where there are a lot of hard-hitting and really tanky enemies that I need to stall, but there are multiple of them and multiple lanes. Which operators are the most fun to use at Elite Zero Level 1? I would say Doll Keepers, because you can place them on the field, and as long as they don't take range damage while they're using their substitute, they're basically free damage, and you don't need to use a medic to heal them. Or Tactician Vanguards like Beanstalk. As soon as I got her, I found her to be incredibly strong. What's the difference between core casters and mech casters? Mech casters have a trait that as long as they're attacking the same enemy, their attack more than doubles. So with Elite Zero Level 1, mech casters have roughly 200 attack, and that gets more than double to be over 400, whereas core casters have roughly 350 attack, give or take. So with that extra attack, mech casters will be doing more damage, and they also attack slightly faster. But when it comes to regular gameplay, core casters gain much more attack bonus from being leveled up. So then, once you get them to Elite 2, their skills and talents are going to be much more influential on which type you decide to use. How's life? Well, it has been fairly stressful trying to get this wrapped up, but it hasn't been too bad. Bread or waffle? Yes. Is there an operator you used to dislike and over time you started to like them? I haven't really disliked any specific operator that Arknights has, but with reading some of the event stories, I have liked some of the operators a lot more. Dusk, for an example, had a few lines of dialogue that made me really like her character.
Mission accomplished.
言っただろ、僕はすっごく強いんだって。